You look like you're about to cause some trouble. Any reason you're hanging around here?
There's no crime happening here.
No trouble when I see it, and you're trouble.
Based on what evidence?
You people always steal from stores like this.
Here. You people? Say that again.
I said what I said. Police are coming. Good.
They'll want to know why you're profiling customers.
What Fiona Wilson didn't know was that the man she was racially profiling held one of the most powerful positions in Phoenix City government. As Fire Chief, Richard Campbell had direct relationships with police leadership, city council members, and the mayor's office. Her 911 call wasn't just summoning officers. It was about to trigger an investigation that would expose discrimination at a business with city contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Before we dive deeper into this shocking story, let me ask, where in the world are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the perfect time. We're about to uncover how one racist gas station clerk's assumptions triggered a citywide investigation that destroyed her career and cost her employer everything. It was 8:47 p.m. on a Tuesday evening in Phoenix, Arizona. The desert heat was finally breaking as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, leaving the kind of warm twilight that made evening workouts bearable. Richard Campbell had just finished his daily 5-mile run through his neighborhood, the same route he'd been taking for the past 8 years since moving to this middle-class area on Phoenix's east side. At 52 years old, Richard was in better shape than most men half his age. 15 years as Phoenix Fire Chief had taught him that physical fitness wasn't optional when your job involved making life-or-death decisions under pressure. When emergencies struck, and in a city of 1.7 million people, they struck daily, Richard needed to be sharp, focused, and ready for anything. That Tuesday evening, he was just a man finishing his workout routine. Sweat-soaked gray athletic t-shirt, black track pants, running shoes that had seen better days. Nothing about his appearance suggested authority or power. He looked like thousands of other Phoenix residents who exercised after work to beat the heat, which was exactly why what happened next would prove so devastating for everyone involved. Richard needed water and a protein bar before heading home. The quick-stop gas station on 32nd Street was his usual stop, convenient, well-lit, and he'd been shopping there twice a week for 3 years without incident. The owner, Owen Patel, had even complimented him once on his consistency as a customer. The staff had always been polite. Tonight would be different. Fiona Wilson had been working the evening shift at Quick Stop for 3 years and 2 months. At 29, she considered herself an experienced retail worker who knew how to spot trouble. She'd grown up in a predominantly white suburb of Phoenix and held strong opinions about who belonged in her neighborhood and who didn't. These opinions had never been challenged by management because Owen Patel rarely worked evenings, and the few complaints against Fiona had been dismissed as misunderstandings. What Owen didn't know was that Fiona had developed a pattern. Black customers received extra scrutiny. They were watched more closely, questioned about their purchases, and made to feel unwelcome through a dozen small acts of discrimination that never quite crossed the line into obvious racism. Until tonight. When Richard entered the store at 8:47 p.m., Fiona immediately tensed. Black man, athletic clothes, evening hours, all the elements that triggered her internal alarm system. She watched him walk to the snack aisle and pick up a protein bar. Normal customer behavior. But Fiona's mind was already constructing a different narrative. Richard approached the counter with his items, pulling cash from his pocket. The interaction should have taken 30 seconds. Scan the items, take the money, say thank you, move on. Instead, Fiona stared at him with undisguised suspicion. "You been in here before?" she asked. Though she'd seen him dozens of times over the years. "Yes, couple times a week," Richard replied, setting his items on the counter. "Just these 2 things, please." Fiona made no move to scan them. Richard felt the familiar tightening in his stomach that came with being questioned for the crime of existing while black. "About 10 minutes away. Been shopping here for 3 years. Funny, I don't remember you. I usually shop during day shift. Different employees." Fiona's eyes narrowed. She looked at Richard's athletic clothes, his slightly winded breathing from the run, his polite but increasingly tense demeanor. In her mind, none of it added up to legitimate customer. It added up to threat. "You been walking around the store for a while," she said. "I've been in here for maybe 90 seconds. Just grab these items." "That's not what I saw. You were looking around, checking things out." Richard glanced at the security cameras positioned throughout the store. Check your cameras. You'll see I walked directly to get water and a protein bar. Nothing else. Cameras can be deceiving. People act normal when they know they're being watched. The conversation was spiraling into territory Richard recognized from both professional training and personal experience. He was being profiled, and the situation was escalating based on nothing but assumptions. As fire chief, he'd worked extensively with community relations programs designed to prevent exactly this kind of interaction. "Ma'am, I'm just trying to buy these items and go home. Can you please ring them up? I'm thinking I should call my manager first. Make sure everything's legitimate." Legitimate? It's $8 worth of snacks. People steal $8 items all the time, especially people like you. The words hung in the air like poison. People like you. Richard felt his jaw tighten. 15 years of public service, countless emergencies where he'd risked his life for this community, and he was being categorized as a criminal based solely on his skin color. People like me? Richard's voice remained calm, but carried an edge that suggested this conversation had crossed a line. "You know what I mean." "No, I don't. Please explain what you mean by people like me." Fiona realized she'd said something that could be interpreted as racist. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. People who come in here acting suspicious, looking around, taking their time, planning things. I'm buying water and a protein bar after a run. What exactly am I planning? I don't know, but I don't like it. And I don't have to serve people who make me uncomfortable. Richard pulled out his phone and opened the camera app. "I'm going to record this conversation for my protection. Don't you dare record me." "That's illegal." "It's not illegal. This is a public business. You're accusing me of criminal intent based on no evidence. Put that phone away or I'm calling the police. There's no crime happening here. I know trouble when I see it and you're trouble. Based on what evidence? You people always steal from stores like this." The phrase hit Richard like a physical blow. You people. The casual racism that reduced his 15 years of public service, his master's degree in emergency management, his spotless record as a community leader, to a stereotype based purely on melanin. You people? Say that again. Fiona's face flushed, but her anger overrode any sense of caution. "I said what I said. Police are coming." Richard nodded slowly, a grim smile crossing his face. "Good. They'll want to know why you're profiling customers." You. As Fiona reached for her phone to dial 911, she had no idea that her call would reach dispatchers who knew Richard Campbell personally. She didn't know that the officers who responded would be people who'd worked alongside him at emergency scenes for years. She didn't know that her racist assumptions were about to collide with Phoenix's most respected public safety leader. And she definitely didn't know that in exactly 18 minutes, her career would be over. Fiona Wilson's hands trembled slightly as she dialed 911, her anger mixing with adrenaline as she prepared to report what she was convinced was a suspicious person casing her store. She had no idea that her call was about to become the most embarrassing mistake of her life. 911. What's your emergency? Hi, I need police at Quick Stop Gas on 32nd Street. There's a black male here, acting suspicious, refusing to leave, and I think he's planning to rob us. The dispatcher, Maria Santos, had been fielding emergency calls for Phoenix for 8 years. She'd handled thousands of suspicious person reports and had learned to ask the right questions. Is the subject threatening you or committing any crime? He's been in here a long time, looking around, and when I asked him to leave, he got aggressive and started recording me. Has he stolen anything or made any threats? Not yet, but I know the type. He's planning something. Maria made notes on her screen, but something about this call felt off. Can you describe what the subject is doing right now? Standing there with his phone out, trying to intimidate me. Is he attempting to purchase anything? Fiona paused. He claims he wants to buy water and a protein bar. But that's obviously a cover story. Ma'am, if he's attempting to make a purchase, what makes you believe he's planning criminal activity? I just know, okay? Can you send someone or not? The call was dispatched to the nearest patrol unit, but Maria flagged it as a possible discrimination complaint. She'd heard too many calls like this, vague suspicions about black customers that never amounted to actual crimes. While Fiona was on the phone, Richard Campbell remained calm, continuing to record the interaction. His years of emergency management had taught him the importance of documentation, especially when dealing with potential civil rights violations. Ma'am, I need you to understand something, Richard said once Fiona hung up. What you just did, calling police on a customer, based on racial profiling that's going to have consequences. You don't scare me. Fiona snapped. I know what I saw. What did you see exactly? A black man buying snacks? I saw someone acting suspicious in my store. Your store? Richard raised an eyebrow. You own this quick stop? I work here. I protect this business. From customers? From people spending money here? Richard pulled out his wallet and set it on the counter next to his phone, which was still recording. From the wallet, he extracted a business card and placed it where Fiona could see it clearly. Phoenix Fire Department, Chief Richard Campbell, she read aloud, her voice faltering slightly. That's right. I'm Phoenix Fire Chief. I've held this position for 15 years. I manage 2,000 firefighters and emergency responders. I work directly with police leadership, the mayor's office, and city council. And you just called 911 because I wanted to buy water and a protein bar. Fiona's face went pale, but she wasn't ready to back down. Anyone can print a fake business card. Richard reached into his wallet again and pulled out his official Phoenix Fire Department identification badge. Gold-plated, with his photo, signature, and official seals. He held it up for her to examine. This is my official department ID. You can call Phoenix Fire Department and verify my identity. The main number is 602-262-6011. Ask for Chief Campbell's office. Close. Close. Close hold in U6. Close. Close hold in U6. Fiona stared at the badge, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. This could still be fake, she stammered. Richard smiled grimly. In about 5 minutes, Phoenix police officers are going to walk through that door. Many of them know me personally. We work together at emergency scenes regularly. They're going to verify exactly who I am, and then they're going to want to know why you called them. I was just doing my job. Your job is customer service, not racial profiling. And you just profiled the wrong person. As if on cue, police sirens could be heard in the distance, growing louder. Richard looked at the security cameras positioned throughout the store. Those cameras recorded our entire conversation. Every word you said about you people. And your assumptions about my intentions. That footage is going to be very interesting evidence. Evidence of what? Discrimination, civil rights violations, and depending on your store's contracts with the city, which I happen to know about because I approve emergency response access to this location, possible violations of anti-discrimination clauses that could affect your business. Licenses. Fiona's confidence was crumbling. What do you mean? Contracts with the city. Quick Stop has several agreements with Phoenix. Your owner, Owen Patel, bid on contracts to provide fuel for city vehicles. There are anti-discrimination requirements in those contracts. Racial profiling of customers could void those agreements. The sirens were getting closer. Richard could see flashing lights through the store windows. Here's what's going to happen, Richard continued, his voice remaining calm and professional. Officers are going to arrive. They're going to recognize me immediately. They're going to realize you called them because you racially profiled a customer specifically, their fire chief. They're going to be embarrassed and angry that they were called out for this. I didn't know who you were. That's exactly the point. You didn't care who I was. You saw a black man and assumed criminality. That assumption just cost you everything. The police car pulled into the parking lot, its red and blue lights casting strange shadows through the store. Officer Jordan is about to walk in, Richard said. Anthony Jordan. Good cop. Been with Phoenix PD for 12 years. I've worked with him at dozens of emergency scenes. He's about to have a very awkward evening because of your phone call. Fiona watched through the window as the officers approached the store entrance. What happens now? She asked, her voice small. Now? Now you explain to police officers why you called them to report their fire chief as a suspicious person. You explain why you refused service to a customer based on racial assumptions. And then you start looking for a new job? Because there's no way Owen Patel keeps you employed after this becomes public. The store's front door chimed as Officer Anthony Jordan and his partner entered, their hands instinctively moving toward their weapons as they scanned for threats. Their eyes swept the store, taking in the scene. One black man standing calmly near the counter. One white woman behind the register, looking terrified. Then Officer Jordan's eyes focused on the black man's face, and his expression changed completely. Chief Campbell, what are you doing here? Richard held up his water bottle and protein bar. Trying to buy snacks after my run. Your dispatcher should have the full story. Officer Jordan looked confused, then looked at Fiona, then back at Richard. The pieces were starting to come together, and Jordan's face showed the exact expression Richard had predicted. Embarrassment mixed with growing anger at being called out on a discrimination complaint. "Ma'am," Jordan addressed Fiona, his voice taking on an edge. "You called 911 about Chief Campbell?" Fiona could only nod, her mouth too dry to speak. "You reported Phoenix Fire Chief as a suspicious person?" Another nod. Officer Jordan's partner, Officer Lisa Chen, looked between all three people and reached for her radio. This was about to become a supervisor call, and probably an internal affairs matter. The investigation Richard had predicted was officially beginning. The atmosphere inside Quick Stop shifted dramatically the moment Officer Anthony Jordan recognized Richard Campbell. What had started as a routine suspicious person call had just become the most uncomfortable situation of Jordan's 12-year police career. "Chief Campbell," Jordan said, his voice a mixture of respect and confusion. "I'm sorry, sir, but we got a call about a suspicious person at this location." Richard nodded calmly. "I know. She called you." He gestured toward Fiona, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. "I've been trying to buy these items for the past 20 minutes. Instead, I was racially profiled, called you people, and reported as a potential criminal." Officer Lisa Chen stepped forward, her pen already out to take notes. As a 5-year veteran, she'd handled discrimination complaints before, but never one involving the fire chief. "Ma'am," she addressed Fiona, "can you explain why you called 911? "Oh," Fiona's voice came out as barely a whisper. "He looked suspicious." "Suspicious how?" Chen pressed. "He was walking around the store, looking at things, taking his time." Jordan looked around the small convenience store, which could be traversed in about 15 steps. "Ma'am, this is a gas station. Customers are supposed to walk around and look at products. That's how shopping works." "But he was different," Fiona insisted, though her conviction was evaporating. "He didn't look like he belonged here." "Didn't look like he belonged?" Chen's tone sharpened. "Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?" Richard intervened. "Officer Chen, she used the phrase, 'you people,' when referring to me. She stated that, 'you people always steal from stores like this.' The entire conversation is recorded on my phone and captured by store security cameras." Jordan's face darkened. As a Latino officer, he'd faced his share of discrimination and had zero tolerance for racial profiling. "Ma'am, are you telling me you called police because you made assumptions based on this man's race?" "I didn't. I mean, he was acting strange." "Strange how?" "Chief Campbell, what were you doing when she approached you?" "I selected a water bottle from the refrigerated section and a protein bar from the snack aisle. I approached the counter to pay. Instead of ringing up my items, she began questioning me about whether I lived in the area and whether I'd been in the store before." Chen was taking detailed notes. "Then what happened?" "She refused to serve me and stated that I was making her uncomfortable. When I asked her to ring up my items, she said she didn't have to serve people like me, and that you people always steal from stores like this." Jordan looked at Fiona with undisguised disgust. "Ma'am, do you understand that Chief Campbell is one of the most respected public safety officials in Phoenix? He manages emergency responses for the entire city." "I didn't know who he was," Fiona said weakly. "That's the point," Chen replied sharply. "You didn't care who he was. You saw a black man and immediately assumed criminal intent." Richard pulled out his phone and stopped the recording he'd been making. "Officers, I need this incident fully documented. I want the security footage preserved. I want witness statements. And I want your incident report to reflect exactly what happened here." "Absolutely, Chief," Jordan said. "This is completely unacceptable." End quote. Officer Chen walked over to examine the security cameras. "Ma'am, we're going to need access to your surveillance footage for the past 30 minutes. Fiona looked panicked. "I don't know how to do that. Only my manager knows the system." "Then call your manager," Jordan instructed. "This is now an official investigation." "Investigation of what?" "Discrimination, racial profiling, civil rights violations." Jordan's voice was getting harder with each word. "Ma'am, you called 911 and reported a fire chief as a suspicious person based solely on racial assumptions. That's not just inappropriate, it's potentially illegal. Richard stepped forward. Officers, I also need you to understand the broader implications here. This business has contracts with the city of Phoenix. Owen Patel, the owner, has agreements to provide fuel services for municipal vehicles. Those contracts contain anti-discrimination clauses. Chen looked up from her notepad. Meaning what, Chief? Meaning this incident could void those contracts if the city determines that this business discriminates against customers based on race. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in city business. Fiona's face went ashen. But I don't make those decisions. I just work here. You represent this business, Jordan explained. When you discriminate against customers, you're creating liability for your employer. Jordan's radio crackled. Unit 347. What's your status? He keyed the microphone. Dispatch, we're going to need a supervisor at this location, and contact our watch commander. We have a situation involving Fire Chief Campbell. Copy that, 347. Supervisor en route. Richard looked at his watch. Officers, I need to ask you something. In your professional opinion, did I do anything that could reasonably be considered suspicious behavior? Jordan didn't hesitate. No, sir. Based on what you've described and what we've observed, you were a customer attempting to make a routine purchase. And in your professional opinion, would you have responded to this call if the complainant had simply said, "There's a black man buying snacks and I don't like it"? Chen shook her head. Absolutely not. That's not criminal activity. But that's exactly what this call was, Richard said. She just dressed it up with words like suspicious and planning something to make it sound legitimate. The front door chimed again as Sergeant Maria Gonzalez entered. A 20-year veteran, she'd worked with Richard at countless emergency scenes and considered him one of the most professional officials in city government. Chief Campbell, she said, then paused as she took in the scene. What the hell happened here? Jordan quickly briefed her on the situation. With each detail, Sergeant Gonzalez's expression grew more serious. Ma'am, she addressed Fiona, do you understand that filing a false police report is a criminal offense? False report? You thought what? That a man buying snacks was committing a crime? Or did you think that a black man buying snacks was committing a crime? End quote. Fiona had no answer. Sergeant Gonzalez turned to Richard. Chief, how do you want to handle this? I want full documentation. I want this incident reported to Internal Affairs for review of how these types of calls are handled. And I want it forwarded to the city attorney's office for review of this business's compliance with anti-discrimination requirements. Done, Gonzalez said. She looked at Fiona. Ma'am, you might want to call your manager. This is about to become his problem too. As if summoned by her words, Fiona's phone rang. The caller ID showed Owen Patel, the franchise owner. Someone had already told him that police were at his store. The investigation was expanding, and Fiona's nightmare was just beginning. Fiona answered Owen Patel's call with trembling hands, knowing that her world was about to collapse completely. Fiona, what's happening at my store? Mr. Patel, there's been a misunderstanding. Put me on speaker, Sergeant Gonzalez instructed. Mr. Patel needs to hear this directly. Owen Patel's voice filled the store as Fiona activated speakerphone. Who is this, sir? This is Sergeant Gonzalez. Phoenix Police. We're investigating a discrimination complaint at your establishment. Discrimination? What kind of discrimination? Richard stepped forward. Mr. Patel, this is Fire Chief Campbell. Your employee racially profiled me and called police when I attempted to purchase items from your store. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. Owen Patel knew exactly who Richard Campbell was. They'd met at city council meetings when Owen was seeking approval for municipal fuel contracts. Chief Campbell, I am deeply sorry. This is absolutely unacceptable. Fiona, you're terminated immediately. Mr. Patel, please, Fiona began. No, there is no excuse for this behavior. Chief Campbell, I will personally handle any necessary corrective actions. But Richard knew the damage extended far beyond Fiona's employment. Mr. Patel, you need to understand the broader implications. This incident could affect your city contracts. Within an hour, word had reached Mayor Sofia Alvarez's office. Her aide called Richard directly. Chief Campbell, the mayor wants to know if you need any support from the city regarding this incident. I need a review of all contracts with businesses that have discrimination complaints. And I want updated training for dispatch on handling suspicious person calls that might be racially motivated. By 10 p.m., Owen Patel had arrived at the store, his face showing the stress of knowing that his business relationships with Phoenix were in jeopardy. The city contracts he'd worked years to secure were worth $300,000 annually. Chief Campbell, what can I do to make this right? Mr. Patel, this isn't just about tonight. I need to know if your employee has done this before. Owen's investigation would reveal that Fiona had indeed profiled other black customers, but previous complaints had been dismissed or ignored. 3 formal complaints in the past year, all involving black customers who felt discriminated against, all swept under the rug. I had no idea, Owen insisted. But Richard's expression made clear that ignorance wasn't an excuse. The security footage told the complete story. The footage would become evidence in both civil proceedings and the city's contract review. By midnight, Phoenix's city attorney had been briefed. By morning, local news stations had the story. Fire Chief racially profiled at gas station dominated headlines. Civil rights attorneys contacted Richard within 48 hours. The lawsuit they filed named both Fiona Wilson and Owen Patel, seeking damages for discrimination, emotional distress, and violation of civil rights. Owen's attempts to salvage his business relationships failed. The city terminated his fuel contracts within 2 weeks, citing violation of anti-discrimination clauses. The $300,000 annual revenue disappeared overnight. Fiona Wilson found herself unemployable in retail. Background checks revealed the racial profiling incident, and no business wanted the liability of hiring someone with a documented history of discrimination. The consequences were swift, systematic, and irreversible. 6 months after that Tuesday evening confrontation, the final settlement was reached. Richard Campbell was awarded $485,000 in damages, $200,000 for discrimination and emotional distress, $285,000 in punitive damages designed to send a clear message about the cost of racial profiling. But for Richard, the money was never the point. This case was about accountability. He testified before Phoenix City Council. It was about showing that discrimination has consequences, whether you're profiling a fire chief or any other citizen. Once other videos, it's longing other profiling from, once other fire chief or Cedro Phoenix. Once other from Souther videos. Once other from Souther videos. Once other videos. Once other video. The institutional changes that followed were sweeping. Phoenix implemented new dispatch protocols requiring supervisors to review all suspicious person calls before officers were dispatched. 3 similar discrimination complaints within 2 years now triggered automatic business license reviews. Owen Patel lost more than his city contracts. Community boycotts forced him to sell the Quick Stop franchise at a significant loss. The new owners implemented comprehensive anti-discrimination training and posted clear policies stating that racial profiling would result in immediate police contact, not of the customers, but of the offending employees. Fiona Wilson's attempts to find new employment continued to fail. The incident followed her everywhere. A permanent reminder that actions have consequences. She moved out of Phoenix within a year, but even in a new city, background checks revealed her history. I made a terrible mistake, she said in her only public statement. But I don't think my whole life should be ruined because of one bad decision. Richard's response was measured but firm. Miss Wilson's one bad decision could have resulted in my arrest, injury, or worse. Her racism wasn't an accident, it was a pattern of behavior that finally met someone who could fight back. The Phoenix Fire Department partnered with the NAACP to create the Campbell Protocol new training for all city employees on recognizing and preventing discrimination in public-facing roles. Richard insisted the program be named not for him, but for accountability. Local business associations took notice. The Phoenix Chamber of Commerce implemented voluntary anti-discrimination certification programs, with businesses displaying certificates showing they'd completed bias training. Consumer pressure made the voluntary program effectively mandatory. 3 years later, discrimination complaints against Phoenix businesses had dropped by 67%. The incident at Quick Stop became a case study in how institutional consequences could create lasting change. Richard still lives in the same neighborhood, still shops at local businesses, and still runs the same route past the former Quick Stop location. The building now houses a community center offering conflict resolution and bias awareness programs. Change doesn't happen through one lawsuit, Richard reflected. It happens when institutions decide that tolerance of discrimination is more expensive than preventing it. The case established legal precedent in Arizona for substantial damages in public accommodation discrimination cases. It showed that racial profiling wasn't just morally wrong, it was financially catastrophic for businesses and individuals who practice it. If you believe that silence enables discrimination and that these stories matter, please subscribe to our channel. We're committed to exposing patterns of bias and celebrating the accountability that follows. We're not just documenting individual incidents, we're tracking the institutional changes that prevent future discrimination. This isn't about one fire chief or one gas station clerk. It's about the society we choose to build through our response to injustice. Hit that like button if you believe consequences create change. Comment below about discrimination you've witnessed or experienced. And share this story, because awareness leads to accountability, and accountability leads to justice. The fight for equal treatment continues, and your engagement helps ensure these crucial conversations don't end here.